Welcome to the Softland Central podcast, your home for market entry knowledge and resources. Softland Central is brought to you by Softland Partners, an online marketplace to help you find best fit resources for your market entry. Find them at softlandpartners.com. Hi everybody, Bill Kenny here with Softland Central. We're the hub of soft landing and market entry information. So we really appreciate you being with us today. I'm joined by two of my favorite people, Alice Chin and Philip Delvecchio. Welcome, both of you.
Hey, Bill. Well, thanks so much for having us.
Glad to be here.
Awesome. So we want to hop right into it. We're going to have a lot of great content today, really around, we've just started a meetup in New York. We had our first meeting last week that was sensational. I'll love to hear Alice and Philip's comments on that. But we also want to talk about how to get the most out of meetups and kind of why we're doing this and what we hope for each of you in being a part of the network. So, but before we do that, let's kind of learn a little bit about our two guests today. And Alice, you're on board as the chapter leader in New York. We really appreciate that. And your business, your other half, is really growing, and you guys are doing fantastic. But can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, and also your better half? Or your other half, I'm sorry. I keep wanting to say your better half.
I've almost said your better half so many times already.
I always joke that your better half is your spouse and your other half is your business. So I'm right there with you. Yeah, so your other half is a human resources and recruiting firm supporting businesses in the U.S. with 2 to 99 employees, whether those are domestic businesses or foreign businesses with an office of that size. My background is I'm a 4th generation entrepreneur. My great-grandfather, my grandfather, and both my parents, my mom and my dad, were entrepreneurs. So I grew up in this kind of very entrepreneurial life. I had a choice of, did I want to work in my dad's restaurant or my mom's tutoring business? And I was smart enough to pick the tutoring business, as most people are, although I can still make a mean dumpling. And what I found was that it was a life that was full of really fast turnarounds, a lot of challenges, but also a lot of rewards. But also some financial insecurity. So I started my career being like, I'm going to go the opposite way and find something that's hugely financially secure. Let's do HR. Nobody ever, the HR person's the last to go. Let's do that. I was really lucky to work at a couple of fantastic companies, a big law firm on 6th Avenue, and then a large publishing company that really invested in their people and learned a lot. But after 3 years there, found that the pace was stifling for me. Really having been a kid of entrepreneurs, waiting a year to pick a software or having a 6-month process to figure out a performance review template was too much for me. And so I decided to move into working with small businesses. I started as a solo consultancy, which I did for 4 years, and then, decided to expand, hire employees, work with my husband, and we've expanded into your other half. We've been working in this configuration for about 5.5 years, serving hundreds of companies across the U.S., and we're thrilled to get to do that work.
That's fantastic. So the types of companies, are there specific industries or anything like that you work with most?
Yeah, we generally have 3 groups. The largest group is professional services companies. Primarily, those kind of fall into 4 subverticals of law firms, marketing firms, and marketing agencies. We work a lot with those. We work a lot with SaaS companies. Even though they're technology-based, they tend to have a more service operating type model. And then we also work with other kind of people who are like us, bookkeeping firms, accounting firms, even some other HR firms that are kind of a different flavor than us. Because, I think service-based companies really understand needing outsourced services and also have really kind of clear and similar employee needs. So that's our largest group of clients. Next is nonprofits. They operate very similar to kind of service-based companies very often, with just a little bit of a different funding source. And then we have a small subgroup of actually health and wellness companies. We find that a lot of those companies have shifting HR needs with lots of different instructors and, different locations and things that kind of have a lot of HR support. support. So those are generally the verticals that we support. I would say that most of our foreign clients fall in that first professional services bucket, either SaaS companies or they're working in some kind of professional service offering. And those are really great fits for us.
Perfect. Well, Phil Delvecchio with HapDay, you're a founding member of the New York Meetup. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and also HapDay? What caused you to start that wonderful company?
Yeah. So, you know, I loved hearing about Alice's story with the entrepreneurial family, and then like still being like, I'm just gonna go with something that's like super safe, because I had similarly like that same mentality, and it was partially because my family didn't have that sort of entrepreneurial background, and it was a lot of it was like scarce. There was a lot of scarcity, and so when I had set out, it was sort of like, all right, I'm just going to follow this path, and then end up kind of wherever is safest. So my first job, first career job, was with Microsoft, but I also had this sort of wandering kind of aimless mentality, and so I didn't last very long there, and I ended up taking a Fulbright and going and traveling, and so I started to develop out this sort of like odd niche of international relations, technology, and education based on these sort of hopping around in my early career days. I did work for a startup for about 7 months while I was in Taiwan, and it was my first taste of like what it was like to work for a small company, and it was amazing. It was everything that I was kind of looking for in terms of the fast pace, the engagement, the ownership, the acceleration of responsibility. But I really started to form the idea for HapDay Group when I came to New York City. I started my path in New York City with an accelerator that was focused on bringing companies into the US market. And we were doing it at such a fast pace that I was just completely plunged headfirst into the international market entry ecosystem, the New York tech ecosystem, the startup and venture world, because we were running week-long boot camps basically every other week. So I worked with well over 200 founders during that year and a half that I was with that company, and at the end of the day, walked away with this understanding and a sentiment that, one, it was one of the coolest and most fascinating and interesting and impactful spaces that I'd ever worked in, and two, there's so much support that these founders needed. And so I started to look at like, okay, so accelerators are really good for all of these different things, and what's like the next thing that they need post accelerator or during the accelerator, and a lot of it had to do with building out consistent and reliable traction. So I formed HapDay Group in 2018, so a little less than 2 years ago, and it started out similarly with Alice, where it was just me, and I was basically saying, I'll help you with whatever you need help with. Like I kind of was a hired hand for whatever expertise that they needed. And I gleaned a lot of that from what I was learning from all of these different experts from the accelerator time. But I realized that there were certain things I was better at and certain things that I was worse at. So I started to narrow that down, and it really became kind of what HapDay Group is today, which is focused primarily on helping companies with their sales and business development. At scaling out that traction. We work with international companies primarily, but we will work with any company that's looking to scale that out in some way, shape, or form. So they have sales, they have some traction, and they're looking to scale it, or they've developed out their traction in another market, and now they're looking to enter the US. We also provide some advisory and consulting for different segments of sort of the main needs that companies have around investment and hiring strategy and things like that. But our current bread and butter is to help with the sales process, and we've gotten pretty good at it, and it's a very satisfying kind of process and engine to build and refine, and it's definitely tweaked my more technical minded self to figure out how to build this out as a process. But it also allows us to engage constantly with new relationships, and that's been really awesome to see that come together. So that is kind of where we're at today, and how everything has been going so far.
Cool. And I'll ask the same quick follow-up that I did with Alice. Are there specific industries or sectors that you focus on?
Yeah, we focus primarily on B2B, first and foremost. And then beyond that, we're looking at companies. It really depends on the customer profile that the company is looking to sell to, quite frankly. We've developed relationships in certain industries, especially the ones that are particular to New York City. But it's more about where those prospects are and how would you go to get in front of them. And so we do, whenever we're looking at companies in the B2B space, we usually spend a decent amount of time exploring their customer profile before even engaging with them as a client, to really decide for ourselves if this is something that we feel like we can be helpful with. So we stay pretty open, but we definitely make sure that there's a fit before engaging.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both for taking the time to share more about what you're doing. I feel so confident about the leadership of the New York chapter. I think there's going to be a lot of great things going on there.